of the JT Mac. Will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, I will start with roll call. Stephen?
Present.
Jay?
Present.
David?
Present.
And I, Dot, and present. Okay, we've changed our agenda around a little bit. If you've got your little papers in front of you, you'll notice that now we have a call for public comment on any items that are not on the agenda. And so I will call for public comments on any items that are not on the agenda. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say? All righty, then we will move on.
Here's one person.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Al, could you move the podium up a little bit so
Okay.
people can see it?
And also, as you
Actually, we need to leave the podium where it's at, if that's all right.
That's fine.
if you'll just state your full name for the record before you start to speak, we would appreciate it.
Al Marquez, resident and property owner on Joshua Tree. This relates to the Highway 62 in the village area between Halley Road and Sunburst. The highway itself in both directions is in bad need of repairs. And I'd like to ask if the MAC would like to put this on agenda in the future to discuss the repairs of the highway, because there are a lot of potholes and it needs a lot of maintenance on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Is there anyone else? Okay, then we want to approve the minutes of the January 15th meeting.
I read all the minutes this afternoon, they looked really good to me, so I would move that we approve the minutes as presented to us.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and so then next is the MAC subcommittee reports. David, you do the land use. Do you have a report tonight?
Well, later on in the presentation we have here, it's pretty much the body of the work I've been doing for the last few months. Let's see. I'll save my questions till my comment and the members of the MAC later on. It's on. I was going to say, I do have questions on the project coming up that Mr. Chris is going to be presenting. I'll leave those questions for the comments for the members of the MAC. And the ones that aren't fulfilled by the presentation, the question and answer, and public comments, I will go ahead and ask the rest of my questions then.
Thank you, David. Jay, roads.
Nothing on roads yet.
Okay. Stephen, emergency preparedness.
Well, the Morongo Basin Emergency Preparedness Committee has not had another meeting since back in December, so we should have one soon. I did some follow-up on the large earthquake drill we had that was called the Great Shakeout from their website, and they concluded that that quake would have left over 1,000 incidents of broken water lines, and that residents could expect months before they had full water service restored, and the utility situation with electricity was quite similar. So let me beat the dead horse and say water storage is really important. Good luck.
Since Stephen doesn't have enough meetings to go to, he is now going to be the MAC rep on the Open Spaces Committee, so he'll have something else to report. Say thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Community updates. Is there anyone from the fire department? I don't believe there was
He
tonight.
just walked in, he came in. I don't know where it was.
Okay, well, we'll go on, and then if he comes in, we'll let him report. Let's all join in congratulating Ramon Monelli for being promoted to General Manager for the Morongo Basin Ambulance Association, and he is going to give us our monthly report.
Thank you. Okay, I was just going to give you the updates as far as calls for January. 911 calls. We had 343 throughout the Morongo Basin. Out of the 343, we had 16 traffic accidents throughout the Morongo Basin. That includes like Morongo Valley, Johnson Valley, Landers, 29 Palms, Wonder Valley, and of course Joshua Tree. Out of those, for the Joshua Tree area, we had a total of 147 911 calls, and only one traffic accident in Joshua Tree in January for us here. Also like to add that we also bought 2 brand new ambulances for the area, and we're putting those together, and we need to get those inspected and certified and put those on the road within the next 2 or 3 weeks. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next, the Sheriff's Department, Captain Donnie Miller.
Good evening, thank you. Tonight we have the Sheriff's Report for January 2009. In the county area alone, we responded to 1,913 call for service. In Joshua Tree area itself, we responded to 811. Out of that, we wrote 224 reports in the county area, and that in Joshua Tree, we responded and wrote 95 reports. 19 persons were arrested in the Joshua Tree area itself, while in the county as a whole, there were 55. With that, the Joshua Tree Citizen Patrol donated 269 hours of their patrol time helping the community. And with that, I'd like to say that with the economy the way it is and our unemployment rate, the property crime is on an increase. So if you can help not to be a victim, lock your cars, provide some security lights, lock your homes, be a good neighbor, have people watch out for you, it would certainly help a lot. And with that, any questions? Yes, sir.
I've had a large report of a incident over there at the college of the new development over there about the material being stolen over there. And they said it was about $80,000 the first time and $30,000 the second time.
We're up to about a little over 100,000 total in 2 incidents, yes, sir. Mostly equipment, this last time around generators. So if you hear of anything with tractors, generators, all the type of equipment that's floating around, we've certainly been interested in that. Anything else? Yes, sir.
There was also a recent incident up in Friendly Hills, that area across the back, where our neighbor noticed somebody looking at their house with binoculars, and then somebody driving around with a car and a big trailer in the back, and then cars being broken into. So, if you see anybody doing that sort of thing, looking at your house with binoculars.
Yeah, if you can grab license numbers, report it. I know that county deputies are scattered between Morongo Valley, Johnson Valley, Joshua Tree. They have quite an area to cover. If you can do anything to be a good witness and report it, if we can't get to it right away, at least we can get to it when we can and then check it out. We need to check out everything we can. So. Yes, ma'am? Go ahead. Anything further? Okay.
Thank you, Donnie.
And Todd Sturgis will not be here tonight. He sends his apologies. He's in Sacramento on his way back right now. So, all right.
Now, we're going to have Alan Rasmussen. He's going to discuss the status of our vacant seat replacement.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. We have one vacant seat, of course, with Mickey Luckman going to the water board and feeling that she should resign from this board. We've got Dot has been appointed as the new chair. The seat remains vacant. There were 4 applications to fill it. One was withdrawn today. Our good citizen and good American Ravi, sitting out there, was concerned about his health and withdrew his application, and then I see him a few minutes ago carrying chairs. I'd asked the staff down below to let me know if it's okay to announce today, and who was going to be put before the county board of supervisors, whom didn't have a meeting this week, so it didn't happen this week. And I didn't get a reply, but I'm going to be a little brave, though, and say that I did recommend, and I believe they're going to go with my recommendation with Ms. Delph as the replacement for the board. It still needs to go through the the Board of Supervisors meeting, so it's not for sure, but they did indicate they'd go with my recommendation, and that was my recommendation. The other applicants were excellent, and I'd be glad to, I feel like the Bachelor all of a sudden. I'd be glad to talk to them about why I made my decision. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. For you that might know that I usually do park reports, I didn't do it this month because Tim, our wonderful county guy, is here to give us a detailed park report. Tim?
Good evening, everybody. One of the things we have going on, I don't know if you've seen us moving dirt out there, is the ball field irrigation project. And what it is a surface flow system. We're reusing water from the water playground. We're sending it into a tank and then pumping it over to the ball field. So we're actually making great use of the water, not only with the water playground, but then to irrigate some turf areas out there. One of the things or stumbling blocks we had recently was funding that project. It was originally to be funded with Prop 12 money. We had $75,000. The state froze all prop funding projects. And so with that, we had to fund the project in-house. The project is estimated to be about $150,000. We did have $231,000 in other project money that we suspended ourselves within our own budget so we could fund the $150,000 irrigation project. So that's where we stand currently with that project, and they're under construction now. They're starting to run the main line over to the ball field. Like I say, it's a surface flow, much similar to a drip system. And the reason we chose this type of irrigation system is while we're running water through the water playground, we can be watering the ball field at the same time. And you would never even see the water being displaced between the water playground and the ball field. So you wouldn't see any overhead irrigation whatsoever out there. Everything's watered at the root zone. It's micromanaged by a controller, and the controller operates on an evapotranspiration rate. Very efficient watering system. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Pretty much it.
How much water is it going to go through a year?
It'll go through a considerable amount of water a year. The water playground itself operates about 40 gallons per minute. So if you can imagine 40 gallons a minute going through that water playground, we're trying to water the same amount out on the ball field and not lose or waste any of the water coming through the water playground. And the water playground has been really popular out there. So how the water playground works is different features come on and off, and there's a touchpad out there. Once you touch the touchpad, it activates the water system. The water system goes through a 20-minute cycle, and different features come on and off through that cycle. And that's how we drive at the 40 gallons per minute.
I have a question.
Sure.
How many days is this water park active? Can it be activated at any time, or only certain days of the week or certain hours?
Right now, we operate the water park pretty much from about 10 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock. We usually post the hours out there. We don't operate it during the winter time whatsoever. It's usually from May through, I think we ran as late as October, mid-October. So we're going to have to do some shoulder month watering, and that's why our system will also be tied to the domestic water supply in order to keep the turf grass green.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Now, in just a minute, we are going to have a presentation from Terra Nova Planning and Research, and it's going to be done by John Chris. And he'll be right back.
Perhaps he retreated.
I'll come up there.
Give us us another report, Tim.
Yeah, I'll give you another report.
Yeah, I thought there was gonna be more park news than that.
Yeah, there is, that's why I'm here again.
Okay, that's more like it.
We hired a new recreation coordinator. You'll start to see her up and around. She started a couple weeks back. Her name's Angela Denson. Her husband is in the military. That's what brought her to the Joshua Tree area. Highly educated person. She has her master's in kinesiology and a Bachelor of Arts in physical education. So we're real proud to have Angela. She started to work on some programs, so you're going to see some new programming on the recreation side here in Joshua Tree. One of the reasons for us doing the ball field project is to try and back into other sports programs here in Joshua Tree. Baseball, softball, Little League. We have a pretty much a small Little League program. It's not necessarily Little League, it's more of an instructional league. But look for those things in the future. And the other thing we have going, we'll start to see construction on, is over at Community Park by the fire station. We're going to be erecting a new shade shelter over there. If you notice, the old shade shelter got removed. It was dilapidated wood. We received a CDBG grant thanks to the supervisor's office, and we'll be erecting that structure here within the next month or so. Is he back?
Yes, he is.
That's it. Any other questions? All right.
Okay, now's your turn, John.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Christ, and I'm with Terra Nova Planning and Research. And I'm an urban planner, environmental planner, and I've been working in this business since 1975. And my wife and I have a business in Palm Springs, and we've been running that business for the last 25 years. Mostly working in Southern California, but also working in about 17 other states in the U.S., doing all kinds of stuff. But our work is really a mix of public sector and private sector development. And I'm here with Mr. Ron Schwartz, who is the managing partner for the applicants for this project, Alta Mira. And I'm going to run through a brief presentation. I'll try to tell you as much about it as I can, and then we'll be glad to answer any questions you have. This project has been under development for about the last year and a half, almost 2 years. And it's a site that is probably well known to most of you folks. It's up on Sunny Vista and Alta Loma. Sunny Vista here and Alta Loma. This is the Friendly Hills Elementary School. Here's the village area, and here's Highway 62, Holmes Highway. An aerial kind of orients us a little bit here. You can see the residential neighborhood to the south, upslope somewhat, and over here off of Sherwood. And again, the village area is right over here, and here's the highway. The project, the north boundary of the project is Sunburst Drive. I've noticed we've got a couple of sunbursts in town, so the post office probably gets a little confused on occasion. And you can see some of the roads that have been in place for some time, both dirt roads and paved roads, and a few drainages that cross this area. There's another larger drainage right through here, and a couple of small drainages that pass through the property as well. And again, here's the elementary school. We did one of several studies for the county. We did traffic studies and hydrology studies. We also did a phase 1 environmental site assessment. I think it'll be there in the middle. And that is for trying to find any hazardous or toxic materials on the site. And part of that survey is we collect historic photos of the properties to see if there have been changes in uses over time. And I thought this was interesting because this is one of the photos from our phase 1 study. And this is the planning area in 1953. So you can see that everything that's happened in this whole area here has really been in the last 50 years, more or less. This is an exhibit of a cutout from the county general plan / zoning map. It's a combined map. And the proposed Alta Mira project is here. Again, Alta Loma and Sunny Vista. And then this designation is residential, single-family, 10,000 square foot lot minimum size. This is what the county calls for now. And I highlighted this other area, which is, I think, almost all vacant, not all of it, almost all of it, as also being for the same designation. You can see it extends in this area from Alta Loma all the way up to this area. We also, one of our other technical studies was a biology study to assess the biological resources on the site. And also with the drainages, we anticipated that the project would be required to have a stream bed alteration agreement from the Department of Fish and Game. So we have filed an application with Fish and Game, and the biology report was part of that. And they have delineated what they feel are these blue areas, which would be stream beds that the state would have jurisdiction over. So there'll be mitigation associated with the disruption to those stream beds as part of the agreement from Fish and Game. Just some views of the project site. It's a very open Joshua tree woodland kind of condition with scattered mix of other shrubs and ground cover as well, cholla, yucca, etc. This is a shot of the map. We also brought a large plot of the map. This is 105 acres. The property here, okay, and we went through several iterations of this map. The earlier iterations provided for in the range of 350 to 400 lots. And under the county general plan designation, which is, it could allow, at least in theory, up to 4 dwelling units per acre. So the early iterations were, well, what are the most lots we could possibly get on this property? Which is one of those basic developer exercises you do just to see what's possible. And then we did, and we found that it didn't look very good. It was not attractive. It didn't manage things in an efficient way, we didn't think. And for lots of other reasons, including the kind of product we thought was appropriate for this part of the town, the surrounding development and the environmental conditions on the site, the map through several iterations came down to provide a total of 259 residential dwelling lots. The smallest lot is 10,000 square feet. The largest lot is over half an acre. There are several large lots, as you can see, in these areas where we have cul-de-sacs and those sorts of things. There are quite a few of them, actually, large lots. The average lot size is 11,600 feet, slightly over that. That's an overall density of 2.46 dwelling units to the acre. I might just address a couple of other things here just so you can see how this works. Again, north is at the top. A half mile north of Sunburst here is the highway. And so the drainage is coming from the south, with the hills and the alluvial fans down here. And you can see where in some areas this drainage through here has not really been addressed by any of the subdivisions. The subdivisions went in a long time ago, so these lots kind of manage their drainage on a case-by-case basis and shunt it across the street and between lots. The county won't let us do that, of course. They require totally engineered improvements for flood control now, and we've had to prepare a detailed hydrology study. We flew the site for topography and have reviewed both the hydrology study and the preliminary map with county engineering, and that has gotten through that review. But you can, what we have here is essentially picking up this drainage which comes through here in this channel, and this is a retention basin, and then it discharges it off-site in a manner similar to the way it discharges now. There's a not very large, but a fairly broad drainage that comes down between the houses through here, and this channel is meant to address that. There is sheet flooding along here. There are no facilities upstream, so the drainage is captured on the north side of Alta Loma goes into a retention basin here from about this point over. This retention basin will all get landscaped and will be available to the residents for walking their dogs and for passive open space. There's an underground pipe that will pipe the flows. Any excess flows that come out will go in this underground pipe into this retention basin, and then that discharges into the existing channel right through here. We are using a native desert palette, landscape palette. It's in the preliminary development plan, which we prepared as part of this application. This is the document we submitted to the county and also to your MAC members. This is a detailed design standards and guidelines for the development of this project. And one of the things we have in this is a landscape palette. And we in addition to using as much of the native materials as we can, we're also required by county ordinance to salvage all plants that we can, keep them in a nursery and reintroduce them into the landscape plan. We also, although you'll see a picture here that is not exactly representative, we've also severely restricted the use of turf in I think limited to 200 square feet per residence or something of that sort, to make sure that each house really has a minimal demand for domestic water. Running through some of the streets, this is a private project. That is, the streets are proposed to be private within the project itself. We would improve Alta Loma rather, to its half width, which would be a 44-foot half width, and the same for Sunny Vista. And then the internal streets are all private. And this is just a small cross-section of that. And then internal streets, a plan view. And ignoring most of the grass here, this is the kind of concept we're talking about here. These yards would all be desert. There'd be no turf in front and limited turf in the back. And they'd have to use the landscape palette in the preliminary development plan document. This is a plan showing Alta Loma we would be looking east, and this is the westbound traffic lanes. And because of the sheet flow that's coming to the south, to the north, and coming across in this direction to Alta Loma, we needed to find some way to capture that so it wasn't just coming down into people's yards here. So what we've taken, this is the 40-foot half width. On project property, we built this essentially an intercept channel, which will intercept flows and convey them down to the central channel. And it'll also, at least along this frontage, will incorporate a second path. So we'll have a bicycle or a sidewalk in the right-of-way, and then another path in this stretch of the area that will be for biking or for pedestrians. And then there's this landscape buffer to also address the slope. And then down here will be pad elevation for the first row of homes. So you can see there's quite a separation here between the first home, which would be back over here somewhere, and traffic, and also quite an elevation difference too. This is a plan view of Alta Loma, and again, here's the curb on the north side of the road, here's the sidewalk in the right-of-way, here's that little drainage facility, and then here's the path, bicycle or pedestrian path. This is representative of what Sunny Vista Sunny Vista Road would look like with the development. It has roughly the same kind of slope. We would have a continuous wall and sidewalk and parkway treatment, but you can see that our plan shows parkway landscaping between the curb and the sidewalk, where we have it here against the curb. But otherwise, it'll have this desert cholla and Palo Verde and Joshua tree and all that Joshua woodland in there as well. This is the main entrance off of Sunny Vista. This is about 500 feet north of the edge of the Friendly Hills School. And we've got multiple lanes in, multiple lanes out. At this point, we're looking at a mag card, some kind of card entry with a call box, that sort of thing, so that people can call in if they are visiting. This is also representative of parkway treatment, especially along Alta Loma, where we have more room. But it's the desert scape and the meandering sidewalk, if we can, on the path, if we can make that work. I think we can. The project sites slopes about 6% from south to north, as the land to the south does as well. And this is a good example of how slopes where slopes are occurring between lots, how those slopes are going to be accommodated in a lot of cases with native plantings, gravel, boulders, etc., all of which, or most of which we expect to be just materials from the site. Another approach in some cases will be the use of retaining walls, and there are all sorts of approaches to this. This is one example of prefabricated interlocking retaining walls that are very cost-effective and nice looking too. As noted, we're next to the Friendly Hills Elementary School. We border its north and its west boundary, so we will need to be considerate of them. These are shots of some of the surrounding development in the neighborhood, primarily scattered residential, although developing more and more over time. I just annotated this. This is due south. This is immediately to the west. This is along Alta Loma, again looking southwest there. More of the surrounding development of the area. And that's it. A couple of other things I'd just like to quickly mention is that, well, I'll give the mention that we've prepared this preliminary development plan document, which is prescribed by the county planning process about what needs to be in it. And it includes a detailed project description and a description of the environmental setting. Also has land use and these very specific development standards and guidelines I mentioned. And also addresses things like public safety, public services and facilities, housing, etc. And these technical studies we prepared for this include a hydrology study, a traffic study, the biology study, including a tortoise survey, the geotechnical investigation, cultural resources studies. We did an air quality analysis, including greenhouse gases, and a physical impact analysis as well. We are in process right now at the county. It's probably going to be some time before the matter gets to public hearing, but they encouraged us, and we've been encouraged by the supervisor also to meet with you folks. And about a year ago, we met with a couple members of the MAC, and so we appreciate the opportunity to make a more formal presentation to the MAC. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
I just have a question. Have your partner ever lived up here, or even spent the night?
We spent the night.
So no one's ever lived up here? Because a gated community is not exactly what our neighborhoods are. People live up here because of the rurality of the landscape and the whole neighborhood. And, you know, I mean, I know you're from down below, and I work down below, and I know that what you're showing on the screens and the pictures is very indicative of what Palm Desert, Palm Springs, Rancho Mirage, etc. is. But that's not us. And with a gated community and a walled community, what's going to happen to the wildlife pathways? This is an area where we abut a national park, and there's a lot of wildlife. And I think if you look around the room, if you ask people to raise their hands, this is one of the reasons we live up here. And this is going to have a major impact on wildlife pathways, because you're right in the way in an area where the animals, coyotes, whatever, go right through to the park. So what is your planning and research company research?
Well, to the extent that we have the central channel, I'm see if I can quickly point this out to you. On the there is this channel here is open at the bottom. This is open at the top.
Okay, so who's going to? No, all right, okay, wait. splits that
Be calm
central
and just
channel.
ask our questions calmly, okay?
There's no question, I mean, the comment is absolutely correct, that this type of development is going to have a perimeter wall along here, although there would be openings for drainages, of course, and wildlife can move through these. We know that happens all the time. This is not going to be the same condition by any stretch as is current. You'll note too that the 1953 photo I put up there, that there were no obstructions to wildlife movement, and now we have lots with fences all around them and that sort of thing. So we've all seemed to have been contributing to undermining the ability of wildlife to move back and forth. So, but it's not a point that is lost on us, and I think Fish and Game is asking the same question of us. Thank you for that.
What about the tortoise study? There were no tortoise on the farm?
There were no tortoise found on the site, that's correct.
Was that?
I've seen
I
tortoises.
believe it was April. It was done at the right time of the year and according to Fish and Game protocol.
Did Fish and Game do it?
Excuse me, can we have public questions come up and use the microphone? Because unless we have a microphone, we're not going to catch up with the notes for the meeting.
Questions?
Seth Zaharias.
Just Q&A.
I don't have a question per se. I'm a bit of a redneck. I'm originally from Montana. I've been in the high desert about 10 years. And I personally consider Joshua Tree Hole Island surrounded by California. This is a beautiful place that we live in. And this little cookie cutter project is a piece of Yucca Valley in the low desert. And man, you're gonna have a hard time in this room because I can tell you most of the people in here don't want that, myself included. I've owned property here for going on 9 years, and in the past 5 years, there's been about 10 spec homes built on the road that I live on. 7 of them are now empty and regularly being broken into, and appliances stolen and all of that. It's another one of those. Thank you.
In response to that and another couple other comments, I just want to point out something I didn't really point out before, but we don't want to be, I don't think the developer wants to be out of step with the community. Now, it's true that, listen, it's true that the majority of your lots up here are larger lots, there's no question about it, but you have a lot of lots that are smaller and have been here a long time, and I'll point this out, this area right through here, which is not very far from us at all, is comprised of lots that range from 7,900 to 9,000 square feet, this whole neighborhood. And so we're not setting a precedent. Our smallest lots here would be 10,000 square feet, and the average lot is over 11,600 feet. So you need to keep that in mind as well, that this is not a totally new concept to Joshua Tree.
Hi, I'm one of the members of the community, Tom O'Keefe, and I'm just really curious, do you like Joshua Tree?
Seriously, yes, it's beautiful.
Well, because we love Joshua. The idea that these other lots may have something written on paper about them doesn't mean that this way of living is sustainable or doable in this neighborhood. Where's the jobs? Where's the gas? Where's the infrastructure? When you look around and you size up what's available as a raw, usable, accountable resource, I don't think you've really assessed your project, because if you think this is a stumbling block for us, I don't think it's a stepping stone for you, because next is they're going to build their project and they're going to build their project and use you as the reason why it's okay to do that. Just like you're using the reason that these lot sizes have been accounted for based on some plan. I want to know how this plan you have works. I want to know how many intersections people have accidents at because of your project. How many people will have a car accident at an intersection you design? That isn't there now. And how many of you are going to be in that accident? There's so many things to look at. It seems to me what I heard from you was drainage. Guess what? This is drainage.
You want to respond? I have no response.
Thank you. I have two questions. You were talking about your water runoff catch basin tools. How many acre feet will these two catch basins hold?
I don't know.
Because we do have these thunderstorms out here, there's a lot of water comes down there.
The basins, I believe the minimum standard was for a 100-year storm, plus again, that volume. But the county flood control, or county engineers reviewed the hydrology analysis, has some suggestions about it, but they otherwise approved the hydrology report. So they feel that we've provided adequate stormwater retention.
The other question is that on the household sewage, what are you planning to have with that development?
Thank you for asking. I forgot to mention that entirely. Early on, and true for all, I guess, residents and businesses in Yucca Valley, everyone's on on-lot septic tanks because we don't have a community sewage treatment facility. I'm sorry, did I say that? Joshua.
I know that the project is YB for Yucca Valley.
Yeah, that was. Yes, thank you. The
unincorporated county.
Over the course of looking at the subdivision, we met twice with the Water Quality Control Board about using on-lot septic tanks up here in Joshua Tree, and also met with the Joshua Basin Water District about the issue. And after looking at a lot of technology and talking to a lot of folks, it was decided that it would be better to build a package plant, sewage treatment package plant, which will be sure to discharge wastewater well within the permitted levels as set forth by the state. So in lieu of on-lot septic tanks, the project is going to have a package plant. And I'll see if I can quickly show you where that's located here. The package plant is planned right at this location here. And it would occupy roughly about half of this lot, and then the injection fields, as they're called, would be in the south end of the lot, the north end of the lot here. This is a stormwater retention basin here. So everything with gravity feed to the plant, which would be built out in increments as the project builds out, and ultimately would handle all the effluent from the residents there and assure that the groundwater is going to be protected.
I do have a question on this. I have the advantage of having one of these to read through. And is this on? Okay. And I noticed that the effluent per day per unit is at 250 gallons, whereas when I talked to Marina West, who at the time was the head engineer for Joshua Basin Water District, or Joe can correct me on her position, but she was the one in charge of approving and requiring things as far as effluent goes, and she said that even though it was a slightly more conservative number, she went by 300 gallons per unit per day, which is roughly another, what, 20% than what you?
Not quite that much.
Well, it's
ultimately I'm not sure who you're referring to or what the baseline that they're speaking to. Ours was the American Water Works Association number, and it's a number that we've been using from working with a lot of water districts, frankly, with the Title 24 restrictions, and also new lake flow toilets and those sorts of things. So that, we feel the numbers clear.
okay, that one's a marginal one, but okay, since this leads on to another question I'm going to have later, but we're on the topic. In your water demand situation, you're saying that this project at build out, which is 259 homes, is going to have demand of roughly 50 acre feet a year.
No, that's not correct.
How much?
It's 89 acre feet a year. assuming that's, the potable demand is 50-some acre feet.
Okay, I was gonna say, if it's, because it's roughly a third of an acre foot a year per house, per unit,
It won't be in this project.
what would it be?
It's gonna be about 80, well, it would be 80, I think it's 89 acre feet per year, so
Well, what I mean is.
that would be about a third, well, about a third of a,
Per hookup, per
a
house.
little less than a third of an acre
It's a
foot
third
per
of an
house.
acre foot.
Yeah, because it would work out almost there.
Okay, so I just wanted to get in agreement with that.
Great.
Please state your name.
I'm Philip Rosenberg. I'm a resident here in Joshua Tree. I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry.
John Christ,
And your company?
Terra Nova Planning and Research.
Terra Nova Planning. And the name of the developer?
It's a limited liability partnership. It's called YD 105.
What is it?
YD 105 is the name of the partnership.
And do they have somebody here tonight
Yes.
other than you?
Yes, the managing partner is here, Ron Schwartz.
Okay. Can you raise his hand? Can I see who that is? Okay, thank you. And the name of your company again is Nova?
Terra,
Terra Nova.
which is Latin for earth, Nova, Latin for new.
And you've been in this business, it sounds like, for quite some time. And let me just ask you your personal opinion. Do you feel like this gated community fits the character of this community?
Well, I guess I would ask you, does one neighborhood of Joshua Tree characterize all the neighborhoods of Joshua Tree?
No,
And
I'm
I
asking
would
you
say
if a
no.
gated community such as this fits the character of Joshua Tree, in your personal opinion.
I would say this, Joshua Tree is not a built-out community. And Joshua Tree has lands that have been designated for the type of use that is more intense than a lot of the lots that currently occur in Joshua
I'm just
Tree.
asking you a very simple question. Do you think that this gated community fits the character of Joshua Tree?
I think it can, yes. And I think the neighbors will be pleased with it if it's all developed properly. Maybe not.
Hi, I'm Mark Wheeler, and I live in Joshua Tree.
Speak up, please.
Oh, sorry.
Is it on?
Oh, okay. Mark Wheeler, and I live in Joshua Tree, and I've got a couple questions. First of all, the easiest one to answer maybe would be, are there any other partners involved in this? Who are they? Are there other partners involved in this? It's partners?
Yes, this is a limited liability corporation. And yes, there are 3 other managing partners.
Do we know who they are? David, would you have it on your plan there?
It's on the county record.
Okay. And then,
Well, you can still answer it, can't you?
I'd be happy to tell you.
great.
Lisa Moscatel,
John, can you give him the microphone? Thank you.
the other managing partners are Niso Moscatel,
Use of Moscatel.
that's his name. He lives up in the Seattle area. Dave Rudvick and Wayne Geraldo.
And where do they live?
They live in Coachella Valley.
And then, I have 3 questions here. How much are the homes projected to sell for? What range are you looking at?
If you had asked anybody that question 2 years ago, you'd have gotten one answer, and now you get a discounted answer. So it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. We've had to try to guess. I think we're looking somewhere in the neighborhood of about $275,000 to about $400,000.
That's in a depressed economy.
Well, hope we won't stay depressed forever.
And then finally, how much is the project going to be paying in development impact fees?
That's a good question. I don't have that information with me, but I can provide it to the MAC.
Does the county of San Bernardino require development impact fees?
Yes.
name's Beverly Noble. I'm a local realtor, and I'm very familiar with the foreclosure market that we've got going on here. All of our properties in the last year have dropped a minimum of 22%. I live directly across the street, what's going to be your front gate on Sunny Vista. And I need to tell you that all the homes along that street are on 1 1/4 acre parcels. My personal residence has dropped almost $100,000 in value. Nobody is buying up here. What they're buying is foreclosure properties. My office and myself are selling them all over up here, and in the lower desert, if you buy a dime a dozen up here for less than $100,000. These houses are going to sit. What you're going to do to our ecosystem is extremely devastating. I bring your attention and remind you of the bad fire we had 2 years ago in Pioneer Town and what it did to the land. The Marine Corps base wasn't allowed to bring up Miramar because of the devastation it would do on the vegetation, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. And what you're wanting to do is just, it's horrendous. How can you come up here and present yourself to a community that doesn't want you, that won't support you? Where are you going to get these buyers at? We can't even get buyers to buy these folks' house at fair market. First choice realty.
Can I respond to that?
Of course you can.
I guess, have you always lived in Joshua Tree?
Not my whole life, no, but I've been here the last 5 years.
Last 5 years? And you live in a 1 1/3 acre, right?
I live on an
Is that
acre
1
and a quarter.
1/4 acre, is that something there?
One of the houses that you had up there, one of the big southwest
Yes.
homes, I live in one of those.
Well, one of the things that you might keep in mind and think about is that if there's not a more environmentally sensitive community that I know of in Southern California than Joshua Tree. And not only from the folks who live here, but nationally, internationally, everybody looks at this place as a very special place. People want to come and live in special places. That is a fact.
And big time moneymakers want to come and exploit it, exactly.
Are you a big-time money maker? No. You're a resident who enjoys where you're living on 1 1/3 acre, let's call it.
Right, and I have no fences.
Okay, that's good. That's very good. But you have 1 1/3 acres, and let's just say, and this project is going to, would be able to accommodate at least three homes on your property.
Have you driven up and down the streets?
Just as an example.
And Pueblo?
Yes.
And seen the houses that are boarded? We can't give them away, sir.
This is not a good economic climate for anyone.
And it's
It's
not
not going to
going to
improve
Nobody's going
quickly.
to buy your houses. You don't have that kind of pay scale here.
Perhaps.
No, it's not perhaps. It is.
There are, but let me just say this, and then you folks, especially you, because you're a realtor, but you can look at the entire market in Joshua Tree, and you'll see a tremendous diversity of housing quality, housing types, housing values. Is that correct?
And I don't care what price they are. I do reports. I work for 5 different big corporations. I work for Chase, Citibank, Capital One, and I do homes that are $400,000 and $500,000. I do reports on them that are in foreclosure, and they're sitting boarded up. We can't get $100,000 for them. I did a report in one in Palm Springs in your neck of the woods last week for $2 million, and I told the bank to put it on the market for $700,000. You know, why would you want to come cripple a neighborhood even more? You impact this world. You know that they're not building the super Walmart because of the economy. I think everybody can hear me. We've got other people waiting in line with their questions. So if you come forward and state your name and ask your question.
My name is Constance Walsh. I'm a longtime resident of Pioneer Town, and we've had many evenings like this. I also own property in Joshua Tree, and it's all home to me. I love it all. In this high desert, there's only one place where we have what you call turf, Mr. Christ. I think lawn is another good word for it, and it's at the cemetery. I hope this project gets buried. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janet Kornbluth, and I've lived in Joshua Tree for about 8 years. And here's another reason why your project's going to fail. We don't have dining, we don't have golf courses, we don't have jobs, we don't have shopping, and we don't have good hospitals. Money on their houses want those things. And the kind of people who don't care about those things live here. So think about that.
Joyce Metcalf. I was just curious, how are these lots going to be graded? Are they going to be spot graded or are they going to be mass graded?
Grading will occur in phases.
What kind of phases? How many acres at what one time?
At this point, they're trying to keep it to no more than 30 acres per phase.
And what's going to happen to
I'm sorry,
vegetation?
no, I'm sorry, that's not correct. It would be closer to the area. We have 10 phases maximum and 105 acres. So it'd be about 10 to 12 acres per phase.
At one time?
At one time.
And then what's going to happen to the vegetation that's on that acreage when it's mass graded?
The species, plants that can be credibly transferred, boxed, and put into a nursery for maintenance will be, that'll be done before the grading occurs. And then mass grading would occur after the salvageable vegetation was salvaged.
And where's this nursery that's going to hold on this vegetation?
That's a good question. It hasn't been decided yet. It probably would be an on-site nursery, but not necessarily.
And how long do you propose that these plants are going to have to sit before they're replanted?
That's a good question too. Ultimately, you would want to get them back into the ground as quickly as you can. So it'll depend on how, it'll vary also by phase, but it will need to be probably within a year of the time or less that the salvage occurs.
Has anybody done a study in your group as to how long you can keep these Joshua trees in a nursery before they die?
I haven't, but one of my planners and others who have worked with Joshua trees up here quite a bit have told us it's a real challenge to transplant Joshua trees.
The transplant rate for Joshua trees up here in the past has been nearly a 90% die-off. So any Joshua trees you take off that property, if they're not transplanted in the exact same way that they were taken off to begin with, at a certain time of year, they will all die. So do you realize that this proposal that you're planning here is going to kill practically 90% of the Joshua trees and the plants you take off here? How do you address that?
We're probably going to lose a fair number of Joshua trees in this process. Yes, I think you're right.
Hi, my name is John Simpson, and I have a couple of different questions. I am also a realtor here in town, and I've been a resident of Joshua Tree for about 10 years, a little more than 10 years. And what Beverly is saying about real estate is absolutely true. There is no demand for your product type here. And with respect to foreclosures, the highest rate of foreclosures is with the houses with the smallest lot sizes. So that's something that's current, but in the time that I've been here, and I've also been doing real estate in California for over 20 years, there just has never been demand for that product type in this area. The people that migrate to this area are here to escape that product type. So I just can't see that you will ever have anything. The price levels that you just indicated are above our highest prices for our best homes. It's financially infeasible, your project, in my opinion. Secondly, I'm also a founding board member of the Mojave Desert Land Trust. We are working with other organizations that are studying wildlife corridors And it seems impossible to me that your 3 washes on your property showed no tortoise sign. My question is, who did your biological resources study?
The bio study was done by a couple of biologists from AMAC Earth and Environmental, the Riverside office.
And they found no tortoise sign in any of your washes?
No, they found no tortoise sign. They found 2 burrows that they thought might be burrowing owl, but there were no signs of owl either at either location. But because of that, they were going to have to do pre-construction tortoise surveys and pre-construction owl surveys also.
Okay, and lastly, what is the status of your stream bed alteration permit?
It's been reviewed. It's now awaiting the completion of the environmental review process by the county.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Penny Mason, and I've been a resident in Joshua Tree for 30 years. And I lived for 9 years, right on the western boundary of where your proposed site is at the corner of Sherwood and Alta Mira. I'd like to know how you're planning to get people out on the Highway 62 from Sunny Vista Road. I would not go that direction as taking your life in your hands, making a left turn onto the highway from Sunny Vista. And I do not see Alta Loma as having the capacity to support the amount of traffic that you're going to have coming from somewhere where you have 259 homes. There's a school, there's a crosswalk right there at that street, and it's nice that you have some proposal for dealing with the traffic problem for the short area between Sherwood and Sunny Vista, but what about the rest of Alta Loma? Thank you.
Thank you. Good, all good questions. See if I can catch it. Let's go back.
Bernie, how are people going to get
Yes,
out
onto the highway.
Without a light there?
There will, I don't recall frankly if our project, at least initially, requires a light, but a light happens in the future at Sunny Vista Road. Both Sunny Vista and Alta Loma are planned to be 4-lane roadways on the county general plan. And rights of way have already been dedicated. 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction on Sunny Vista and on Alta Loma. Once the area has built out, that's the long-term plan.
Who's paying for
those roads?
Just to handle the mass amount of traffic.
So you guys are going to put the houses in there, they're required for this to be a 4-lane road, but you're not planning on paying for it.
We'll have to build our share of it, actually. The project, rather, will build the half width of Sunny Vista and the half width of Loma, Alta Loma, along the entire frontage.
Just in front of their property.
Just in front of their property. That's right. And that will
You're not
include.
planning
Give me the mic, please.
no planning for a light right now, Sunny Vista and
Yes, there are plans for a light there, but signal warrants, traffic engineers don't always agree on what the basis is for when a light is needed. And sometimes a function of the number of accidents, sometimes it's just the number of vehicles and the turning movements, but I'm confident that's programmed for a light. In fact, it's probably going to be sooner than later, because you're not the first person I've heard that concern about that intersection from. So those improvements will occur, and they'll probably occur during the earlier phases of this project. And then on Alta Loma, there are 2 types of improvements along that. There's the sidewalk is along the entire frontage down to the school.
But Alta Loma runs all the way to Yucca Valley, not just in front
That's
of your
correct.
project. And your project is going to impact it all the way, because people aren't going to get to Yucca Valley by just driving to Sherwood and stopping.
Oh, no, that's correct.
Yes, my name is Bert Lesage, and I've lived here in the High Desert for about 15 years, and a lifelong resident of Southern California, and came through this area many years ago when it was very, very rural. But getting to the point, yes, the young lady now just spoke about the traffic. Right now, we have a tremendous jam of traffic at the corner of Alta Loma and Joshua Lane, where the Yucca Valley Post Office is. A 4-way stop that isn't working. Going on a little bit further, where the street connects with Highway 62, down by where the Denny's and the Steve's Auto Supply is, that's another area there that's going to be vast, overworking. I mean, rejuvenation And I wondered if your traffic people, when they made their study, at the hours that they made it, because I get up early in the morning and the traffic is greater, much greater between 5 and 7 a.m. than it is thereafter because of the traffic going out to the airbags. Same way with the evening traffic going home on Friday evening, it's terrible. The other thing is, and I would like to call, Sheriff Miller, give us a report on how many of his officers' time is spent taking care of vandalism at the unoccupied 1,000 homes that we already have here in the Morongo Basin, and how many more deputies is he going to need to take care to police this area when the places do not get sold? Because obviously we know that it's going to be a long time between building and completion and occupation. And the one other thing that hasn't really been addressed yet is, you just pointed out to us that you're going to put a septic tank or whatever it is right there at the corner of, right across the street from that is another school for retarded children. And are they going to be subjected to any kind of a after effect of that septic tank that you want to put in there?
Good question. The answer to that is no. There's no odor associated with these facilities. The water quality will be tertiary treatment quality, could be used for irrigating plants at a school or a park. So the answer will be that, and it's technology that's been around for 40 years or longer, so the answer should be no.
That's only one question. Now let's go about the traffic signals.
Well,
What about the traffic signals?
Yes, the traffic report examined the impacts that this project is going to have on area traffic. And the project will, total traffic a day will, the maximum traffic will be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 2,500 trips a day. Peak hour, say either peak hour in the morning or peak hour in the evening, is roughly about 10% of that.
Has your traffic study taken into fact of the great increase of population at the 29 Palms Marine Base? And we know that an awful lot of those people reside at this end of the valley.
The traffic study not only looks at the opening year for the project, but it also looks at the year 2035, which is the build out of this portion of the Morongo Basin. So those impacts are factored into the traffic study.
How can they factor them in there when the United States government still doesn't know exactly what they want to do out there?
Well, the county general plan has, not only the county general plan, but the Regional Association of Governments, they've run all these numbers, and I'm not happy with all this modeling either that occurred, and you wonder if these numbers really make any sense, but it has been done, and we're required to use those in our traffic analyses.
Okay, now then, my wife Jean here has been a 30-year teacher in the Morongo Unified School District. And we've got two schools that are going to be greatly affected with this, not only with the outside traffic, but what about the availability of teachers for the increased population, school populations, and what about the buildings, square footage? Is that going to be sufficient for this increase of residents here with these number of homes that you want to build? And then I'm going to leave you with that. I would like to have the sheriff come back up here and tell us about his reports and his numbers on vandalism at unoccupied homes.
With regard to the school question, the project will be required to pay school impact fees just like each house, actually, just like all new homes in Joshua Tree have to do.
Impact, I think it's building bigger room, more add-on buildings, and so far the whole valley here has always used nothing but, what do you call them, portable buildings? Yeah. We're going to have much more of those.
Mary Riggs. I'm an 18-year resident of the Morongo Basin and 9 years here in Joshua Tree. And my concern is, who exactly are we keeping out with these gates?
That is a very good question. And in fact, there's debate about whether gated communities, at least in terms of security, really are. Sometimes it's a matter of perception of a buyer into a community rather than a reality. So you raise a very good question, and I don't have a good answer for it.
Well, I have a question. a year and a half, 2 years ago, you met with my predecessor.
Yes.
And at that time, they said, no gated community. So time goes by, you come back and you give us this presentation, and it's a gated community. So you really don't want input from us, or a year and a half, 2 years ago, when you met with my predecessor.
I can answer that question. We met with the MAC, it's been about a year and a half or 2 years ago, and the subject of the gated community came up. What was pointed out at that time was that this would be a novel idea in your community. We pointed out what we were trying to accomplish by doing that, and what was suggested to us was not, don't do it. What we were advised, I think it was by Mrs. Kopp.
Yes, she's right behind you.
Okay, at that time, you had told us about a project, I believe it was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Take a look at that. It was a gated community.
Not gated.
Not gated.
Okay, well, it had many of the amenities that you were looking for, some type of walking trails, things of that sort, part of which we're incorporating within the project with desert scape and things of that sort. So we took those comments to heart. We took everything we had to heart, and we made a number of adjustments to the project as a result of that. So we did not ignore the comments that were made at that time. The idea of having a gated community, the individual that we're talking about that may be attracted to that might be somebody that's in the retirement community, as an example, that wants to have the impression that's created by those individuals is they want something, they're looking for protection, something that's gated. That's part of what we have in mind for that type of individual. And we think that's what a lot of the people that are going to be spending, we talked about, another thing we talked about was a property price, $400,000. The price would be adjusted based upon market conditions. We're able to build a project over here that makes sense, anywhere from a couple $100,000 on up. So the market conditions that exist today will indicate what it is that we're ultimately going to be doing with respect to the project. There's no fixed amount in mind. John pointed out what we would have done a couple of years ago, not necessarily what we're going to be doing at this point.
My name is Tim Pino. I've lived up here about 27 years. A couple questions. First of all, clarify turf. I'm assuming it's grass. Why not AstroTurf? That takes away the water.
That's a good question.
Just do it. I mean, you're the developer.
Yeah.
Just do it. Write it out. Just write it in the language. I also made my living from construction in Southern California. I understand that if this works for your corporation, you're going to do it. If it works, it's going to make you money, you're going to do it. Are you going to have that in the language of your development plan to use only local labor? Hire local labor only. Don't pluck up a bunch of people from Coachella Valley, from Riverside, from San Bernardino, and take our workers. There's a bunch of out-of-work construction workers up here too. Hire us if you're going to build it. Because if you're going to build it, you're good. And I know that. And I think most everybody else does too. Unless we get the pitchforks and the torches out. Unless we get the pitchforks and the torches out, that's how this works in Southern California. So, write it in your language, and if you're going to build it, use local labor only.
Can you hold the microphone, sir? Can you hold the mic real close so we can get this from our notes?
Okay, is that better? Can you hear me? With respect to the question that was asked about the turf, there's nothing from our standpoint that's going to require us to have anything other than native vegetation in the front of the house. We're putting together CCNRs that place restrictions on what can go in. Comments that were made at the MAC when we got together a year and a half or so ago, that was one of the comments, and that's been incorporated in part of our thinking. What happens in the backyard of a house, we try to limit the opportunity for somebody to use something like a turf in the backyard. If the feeling is that the turf does not work, we'll strongly consider not having turf in the backyard. It's not the most critical aspect of what we're trying to accomplish here. We're trying to take the natural setting as much as possible and incorporate it in the the physical being of the project. They're even talking about not having everything wall. A comment that was made a year and a half ago was consider the possibility of some type of articulation when you have wrought iron. To the extent that we're able to do things of that sort where there's a sound barrier, you have those issues, noise and things of that sort, we'll certainly do that as well.
Jay?
One thing, Dougie, I don't know whether you've done it or not, Joshua Basin Water, I'm on a citizen advisory committee with them also. We've put together some templates for suggested plants and vegetation for home. You might want to coordinate any of that with Joshua Basin Water. And also, as you're aware, they have the sewer authority. They will manage your package plants, so, you know.
And we've talked to them about that.
Okay, but since you've been to get your will serve letter, a lot of things have happened since then as far as vegetation, gardening, plants that are native to the area, and things that Joshua Tree wants.
Well, and as everybody knows, our water crisis is going to continue if it doesn't get worse, and wise water use is really going to be critical. A lot of the water district, the county has a landscape ordinance. A lot of the water districts now have landscape ordinances. I don't know if Joshua Basin is intending to do some. There are lots of prototypes, and Joshua Basin will probably have leverage over that sort of thing too, to assure that irrigation is not excessive.
My name is Travis Puglisi. I've lived in the high desert for 7 years. I'm a homeowner now. I have one comment and 2 questions. My comment is, I bought a house about 6 months ago. It's on 2.5 acres, right next to the national park. It's over 2,000 square feet, and I got it for $61,900. I don't know how your project can even possibly be in step with our culture, and we are culture. We're not just neighborhood culture. That's my comment. First question: to give things a sense of time, which we don't really have. If everything went swimmingly for your project, when would the building in the last house be done? Just for us to have an idea of how fast we got to scramble this.
I think that it would be just an incredible guess.
Well, give me your best shot.
I would say 10 years.
So building would start in 10 years?
No, you'd be built out in 10 years.
Finished in 10 years. But when would it start if everything went perfect?
When you tell me when the economy is recovering, they'll probably, and there's financing available for anything, and the foreclosures that are going on as a wave stop, we could be, frankly, and my client might not want to hear this, but it doesn't matter what I say, I think we're years away from a recovery in this economy. So, you know, the development planning, though, takes years to do. And then financing takes years on top of that. So that's why developers have to get started early.
I want to add one more question. You already own the land, I imagine. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, you already own the land. My other schedule, or you're doing a development. You have all these opportunities to really get things dialed and environmentally conscious, and you know, like Tim Pinar, who's an electrician for me, and a bunch of other people in this room. You have an opportunity to put in language, hire local workers. If anything even like this possibly could happen here. You even have an opportunity to eliminate the gates, which would, or the gated aspect of the gated community, which would be one step closer to accommodating our culture. What about things like solar energy? Have you taken the time to incorporate that into every single home? Since you have so much time, 10 years down the road, with solar because now's the time, right?
Absolutely. I mean, congratulations on the house first. Absolutely. I would like to see every house in this, actually I'd like to see every house in Joshua Tree, for instance, be using solar thermal hot water. There's no excuse for us not having that. And David Suzuki, you know, was down in the Coachella Valley here a few months ago, And he railed at all the political leaders in Coachella Valley, that you guys, it's an obscenity that you have all this solar energy and you have almost no solar collectors on any of your buildings. So we're really working real hard on that issue in Coachella Valley. You have the same benefit of sun. The plan development document has provisions for both requiring and encouraging solar, thermal, solar electric. Now, I think we're having a lot of trouble in getting the rest of society to move along on both the conservation and the renewables. And we're still talking about, where are we going to get more oil?
You like you're part of the problem.
I'm sorry?
You seem like you're kind of-
Well, I'm actually,
Not you.
I'm leading up to something here, which is really important. In the last couple of years, the California legislature has passed some really important legislation. One is AB 32, which is a greenhouse gas legislation, which is trying to get California to lead the way in reducing our greenhouse gas footprint. That's one. Another is AB 370 or SB 375, which recently passed, and that is another layer to this, which is requiring regional governments, including and regional air quality boards like Mojave and South Coast, to link transportation and land planning. And what they're going to be telling all these communities in Southern California, and I don't agree with all of this, but they're going to say, you must increase development density on lands. You must have fewer low-density developments, and if you're going to build new houses, they need to be more houses on less land. It is sustainable development. It reduces this higher density needs to be near major transportation corridors like highways and rail and things like that. And there's a whole slew of legislation and regulations that's coming down that the county supervisors and the council people in Yucca Valley and the Coachella Valley and elsewhere are going to be required by law to implement. Our project is just slightly over half of the density that's technically permitted under the general plan. And I can tell you, I've been going to conferences all over Southern California and seen some of the folks from your areas, and they're saying our rural lifestyle is at stake. And some planners are trying to say, hopefully reason will be brought to bear. But this idea of density, of higher density, especially closer to transportation, and of course the alternative energy, all this is driving to having more homes on less land. It reduces the cost of infrastructure to each home, water, sewer, natural gas, electricity. It reduces the amount of energy typically used by a home at higher densities. So we're not proposing something that's radical by any stretch, even for Joshua Tree, I think. But there is a whole wave behind us that is pushing, and it's going to continue to butt up against rural communities who may justifiably see some of this stuff as a threat. And this is something I deal with every day. So I think we've got here what I think is a reasonable compromise, and one that when the general plan was updated just a few years ago, it was put on the maps, it was discussed, it was analyzed in the county general plan EIR at length. The county got sued by the Attorney General's office because they didn't feel that enough was being done to offset the effects of urban development or development on greenhouse gases in the environment. So this actually goes towards addressing what the supervisors are going to address anyhow, and doesn't even go as far as a lot of people insist that we're supposed to go. So it's a situation that we're all in at this point.
But where are these jobs for these people? Is there that many retired people, really?
There is. Well, that's a good question. I don't know what the demographic. I haven't looked at the demographic lately in Yucca Valley, Joshua Tree, 29 Palms. I'm sorry?
This goes to your greenhouse gas.
It certainly does. And we have a demographic wave where baby boomers are retiring on a large level. And they have been fueling the development of a lot of these retirement communities and vacation homes or that sort of housing. In the Coachella Valley really was born from that sort of thing. It may take some time, however, because of the economic downturn, I think it is going to slow that wave breaking, if you will. But there are a lot of people who see Joshua Tree as a really desirable place to retire.
Well, why don't you build a nice 5-acre homes with observatories, so they can enjoy a night sky, and they get to come out here, and as the tortoises are walking by, they get to enjoy that, and they get to really get with this neighborhood. And you guys could get on the map, on the right side of the map, where maybe something that is Joshua Tree might really be worth investing in, and maybe you are the guys to do it. Maybe you guys could look at a different model than everybody else looks at and find out if it works here. For 61,000.
That's okay.
Cindy Zacks, I've been a Morongo Basin resident for 16 years, Joshua Tree for 8. Teach at Yucca Valley High School, which is one of the schools that is due to be impacted by your project. I have a fairly simple question. The square footage, low and high, of the homes you're going to build.
I think they run from about 1,800 to, I think it was 2,600 square feet, something like that.
Okay, and John, do you have an idea what the average square footage is of the homes that here right now?
They top out around 2,000, more probably average would be around 1,800. There's a lot of homes under 1,000 square feet.
Okay, so your minimum is our current maximum for the majority of our homes here, it sounds like.
Would you like me to actually research that? Because I can probably do that and give hard
I'm just
numbers.
curious, because, you know, the trend is to build bigger and bigger and bigger homes, when up here we have a lot of smaller homes. So, you know, and if you're looking at retirement people, they don't need 2,400 square feet if there's 2 people living in a home.
Well, that's a good
Smaller homes, maybe.
And that's why probably 1,800 square foot homes may be a popular product ultimately. So it's a good point.
John, actually, 1,600 to 2,400.
So 1,600 to 2,400.
Hi, Jean McLaughlin, and I'm a resident of Joshua Tree for the last 5 years, and I've been coming hiking here since the 70s. And I'd like to know, well, I love the open space here, and I treasure a yard and space more than, crammed-in houses with huge floor spaces. And I want to know again about the plant issue, because these plants you're proposing to mass grade are protected, as well as the tortoises and a number of other plants. And all these plants are needed for the animals to live. And you can't just come in and knock them down and take them out like that. I have a question about the lighting. What type of lighting are you going to have in this?
That's a very good question. We have a whole discussion in the PDP about lighting. We've encouraged through the design guidelines to have as low a lighting level as possible, including street lighting for that matter. But that there be within the development residential lighting of any sort on structures or security would all be screened. We have a night sky policy in the document to try to protect the night sky as much as possible and keep lighting levels as low as possible.
Well, there is a problem, misconception, I think, in the shielded lighting that's being used and putting too many in a given area, and it causes a lot of reflected light. And people here and people from all over the world that come to Joshua Tree National Park that like to see the night sky wonders do not, because of reflected glow. And it's apparent from Yucca Valley. There's a big glow. Joshua Tree's getting more of a glow from all these lights. And the new houses being built are having 2, 3, 4 lights outside of their houses that they leave on all night.
I know.
And also, I'd like to know, back to the tortoises, just when was this EIR, the survey, done?
The tortoise survey was done last spring.
In April?
In April.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's why we need to do a few more surveys, because, having washes, and also just I can't get used to the idea of mass grading. You know, we treasure our plants here and animals. And I'm not really prepared for this. There's just a whole number of issues. And for instance, the water. You propose turf, and you know we're having a water issue. And there's a proposal for a pipeline, but there's no guarantee of delivery. And so how is this going to be serviced? And people have turf in their backyards.
Let me try to address your questions. With regard to the wildlife issue, there is no question that habitat loss and habitat fragmentation have been one of the biggest problems with habitat and wildlife pressures not only in Southern California but everywhere. One of the aspects of this project is that it is essentially surrounded on three sides by existing development. Now, not all of the lots have been developed yet along Sherwood or south of Alta Mira or east of Sunny Vista, but they will. And so incrementally, those lots which have already been subdivided will have the same effects that will be required to take plants out, to find a pad, and build a driveway and a garage. All those things will happen. But one thing that will happen with this project is that if you build 259 homes on this 105 acres, it is the impact of the 105 acres. If you build at the rate across the street, the impact is 315 acres or more. So density can actually, in the regional planning, area planning, help to preserve other areas, large aggregated areas that the trust and others are hopefully buying up and trying to aggregate. So you have habitat, large blocks of habitat that are functional, and not little blocks of habitat that are subject to off-highway vehicles, roaming dogs, and kids like me who collected everything I could find. So I think that's an important difference to keep in mind too.
Well, animals do go through yards. Animals do go through yards, and they go through chain link, believe it or not, and they pass back and forth. And so your wall and everything else is going to keep them out.
Some of the walls will have that effect, that's right.
And by building so dense, you're eliminating a large area of this.
Actually, we're eliminating an area, roughly a third of what comparable development would disturb. And if you want to talk to biologists, it's true that there is this permeability in these larger lots, etc. But no biologist that I know will tell you that this has not significantly adversely impacted habitat, even at over an acre lot.
Okay. And how about speaking of permeability, how about the erosion issue? When you pour a lot of cement and it's on a hill, there's a lot of erosion that takes place even though we don't have a lot of rain. When we do, you can notice all the new houses that are on a slope, all by their cement slabs and their driveways, all the sand is running down the street every time it rains.
Well, the flood improvements, the street and flood improvements in this project will be the most expensive parts of the site improvement. So it has to be engineered to handle that.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure there's a lot more questions.
Okay, we're going to take this gentleman's question here, and then we're going to move along to the request for speakers, because we're running out of time.
Hi, my name is Drew Reese, and I live in Joshua Tree. I've been here for about 8 years now, and we have a business in the area. And originally, we were from San Francisco, and one of the reasons we left San Francisco was that we lived on a street which all the houses were cheap by jowl. We had a little dime-sized yard in the back, and most of the time we could never find a parking space in front of our house. So usually we'd have to drop the groceries off and go find a parking space and come back. So one of the reasons we moved to Joshua Tree was open space. And because we had been coming here for 30 years and hiking and camping in the park. So when we were looking for houses, we looked on both sides of the hills. We looked at land, we looked at cabins, we looked at houses. And finally we found the house we were looking for, which was up in the rocks and has 3 acres and we're surrounded by boulders. And it's a very special place. And not every place is like that. But, you know, it's one of the things that I love about being here. But it's also, the whole thing about Joshua Tree is this isn't like a blank slate when you talk about grading. You know, you're not like building a Walmart. And when you talk about density, you know, these are just figures, and it's so abstract. And the thing you're forgetting about is all the people in this room. Joshua Tree is made up of people who love Joshua Tree. And you guys, I hate to say it, you like money. And if you really love Joshua Tree, you would redo this plan into a sensible plan that would really work for everyone. If you really wanted to be part of Joshua Tree, if you wanted to be a hero in Joshua Tree, you would do something like this. You would maybe pick up a Dwell magazine and maybe figure out how to redesign these houses so it doesn't look like you're in La Quinta or Palm Desert or Rancho Mirage. Some of the original cabins that are here. They're shed-style roof, they're simple, 10 by 20. Why can't you, like, improve on that? Make it more interesting. Do something that fits into the land. Drive up Joshua Hills Road and see the difference in houses. You have the typical ticky-tacky ranch-style houses that people are building in this area, and then you have the typical Southwest-style house. You look at one, it looks like you're in the suburbs. You look at the other, you're in the Southwest. It fits into the neighborhood. The houses you're building don't fit into this area. The other thing is, let's put the map of your project up there for a second. I just want to show you what we're really looking at here. This is really what you have to think about. This is not a community. This is just a design. We've taken this little square and we've said, how can we fill the entire thing with houses? We're not thinking about who's going to live there, what they're going to do, how they're going to get a job. There are no jobs up here. We all know that. You know, we're lucky in that we do have something that we can survive on up here. But otherwise, most people have to drive down the hill to shitty jobs at Walmart and places like that. I mean, where are these people coming from? And like you say, well, we'll put a stop sign down there at Sunny Vista. That's not going to work. I mean, you can barely get out on these roads as it is now. And it's like, how is this going to work? This makes no sense. You are the third subdivision developer I've seen in my time here. The first one was Century Village in Yucca Valley, or producing the same kind of stuff. Then there was Mr. Katz, who had the same kind of stuff, and he was even going to put a little art project on the corner for us. He said, well, you know, all the artists might gather there, and that might be really cool. One of the artists said, I don't think so. We go down to Ricochet and we hang out there. And Joshua Tree is a unique place, and that's one thing you really have to realize. And from all these people speaking tonight, have you heard anybody say, wow, I'm ready to sign up for that, baby. Yeah, I want 65 over there. You know, because I'll have easy access. It looks like there might be some open land there. So at least I can feel I'm right up next to the park. So what are we talking about here? And septics. This whole thing is on septics? You're putting 4 or 5 houses to an acre of septic?
No, not septic.
Package treatment. Yes, that should work really well up there. And we're going to have one of those big ponds like they had in Tennessee. Remember where all the cold slurry went out into the valley? Yeah. Shit floating down the street up there. I mean, are you nuts?
Do you have anything else helpful to say?
No, I don't. And the one thing I want you to know is most of the people in this room do not like this project. Go back to the drawing board and come up with something that makes sense. Right? Yeah. Bring jobs.
Thank you. Bonnie Kopp.
Is that working? Oh, okay.
Loud and clear.
Good evening, everybody. It's been fun, hasn't it? My name's Bonnie Kopp, and I'm the chair of the Land Use Committee of the Joshua Tree Chamber of Commerce. However, tonight I'm speaking as an individual, and I'm speaking as an individual who's had extensive experience in evaluating proposals such as this one. The design of this project flies in the face of everything that we treasure about Joshua Tree. Dense gated communities are simply not appropriate in a place whose greatest asset is wide open spaces and sparse development. People do not move here to replicate city or suburban life. They move here to escape it. This development has been created to turn its back on our community. It is walled, gated, focused inward. Houses will be packed together on long streets ending in cul-de-sacs with side yard setbacks as narrow as 5 feet in some areas. The preliminary development plan does devote considerable space to design and landscape guidelines that are aimed at varying the housing type and specifying plant palettes. The problem is that there is absolutely no enforcement mechanism for ensuring that these guidelines would be adhered to. There is a lot of use of the words should and encourage in the plan, as in this, and I quote, "Variations in building massing are encouraged, but should reflect a sense of compatibility and a cohesive neighborhood." Without the creation of a design review board or a requirement for each house to be reviewed by a responsible county agency, these guidelines are meaningless. But the most disturbing aspect of this plan is the fact that its proponents seem to have no intention of developing any of these houses. The plan states very clearly that each phase is expected to be sold to a merchant builder to develop up to 30 homes at a time. Yes, I've read the plan. There could be multiple builders with varying qualities of workmanship and aesthetics. My experience with this is that the further in time you get from the initial approval, the laxer standards become. And as county staff turns over, the institutional memory is lost and the design guidelines will be just a distant memory. I know there will be other speakers who will talk about the loss of Joshua trees, native habitat, water shortages, and other equally important issues. My point, though, is that this development is completely incompatible with the existing built development of our town, and if approved, may set a terrible precedent for future projects. It represents the most cynical attempt to profit in a soft economy by entitling the property and then selling it piecemeal to a succession of builders. Joshua Tree should not let developers define the terms of our future development. Instead, let's work together to build responsible, sustainable projects that respect our community. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Valerie Davis. And the person after that will be Bill Ford if you want to get ready.
I'm Valerie Davis. I've lived in Joshua Tree for 10 years, and I'd just like to say this development is so inappropriate on so many levels, and I just can't believe that they have the nerve to come up here with this plan. I don't think that they realize, they don't seem to have any kind of concept as to what they're destroying. How are they going to move a 500-year-old juniper pine? Some of these plants that they're going to bulldoze are thousands of years old. And I don't know where they got their tortoise study from, but personally, I've seen 3 tortoises on that property, the last one this fall. I just can't believe that there are no desert tortoises on that property. And I think this is disrespectful both to the community and to the land, to the whole area, and I just think it's a disgrace, and that's all.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bill Ford. I've been in Joshua Tree since October of 2004. I moved the hell out of Ontario, Chino, Pomona, Montclair area because I could stick my elbow out the window and shake my neighbor's hand. And now the very modest house that I have on a 5-acre lot that's about 1,000 feet from the park boundary line, just out here by the hospital area, the house sits 360 feet from the nearest roadway. That's 360 feet. I sure as hell can't reach my neighbor that way. So, what I would like to expound on is, one thing is, you're talking about a project that's got a whole bunch of small houses, well, small by comparison, all neatly tucked together where your neighbors can shake hands through the bathroom windows. And we already have over 9 million foreclosures in the United States now. What the hell are we going to do with more houses? You know, this is nonsense. It's going to be 10 to 15 years before these 9 million houses that are in foreclosure now, before they're already, bundled in with the rest of the stuff. And you got more coming. Gated security for residents. This is, I have a personal experience with gated communities. Now, in California, there's about 55 or 56 of these places, gated communities, and collectively throughout California, they house about nearly 1 million population, okay? 1 million. They're operated by the California Department of Corrections, and they're called prisons. Those are gated communities, okay? And they're walled. Now, if you really, thank you, if you really want to understand what a gated community is, you might want to talk to the Department of Corrections. They're always looking for where to spend the billions that we already pay in taxes towards the Department of Corrections. I'm retired from the Department of Corrections, okay? So I got no axe to grind. They can't come back and write me up for saying something I shouldn't have. Anyway, the other thing that, if you really want to put in high-density housing, especially gated and walled, try South Central LA. Okay? I mean, down there you get to spend money on barred doors, barred windows. And if you just happen to have a fireplace in your house that's got an opening on top of the roof, right? You get to put bars over that too, so they can't crawl down the damn chimney, right? They let Santa Claus in with cuffs on his arms. Okay, so if you want a gated community, try South Central LA. That's a great place to do this stuff, but not in Joshua Tree. I don't want a prison in my backyard. Okay. I don't want people driving up and down Highway 62, you see, is a major thoroughfare, a major roadway. No, it ain't. And it won't be for the next 20 years. I said my piece. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eva Soltis, and I've owned a home here in Joshua Tree for almost 6 years. And what I want to say is, I think one of the reasons that you want to come into this community to build is that people are attracted to Joshua Tree as a place to relocate. And the reason Joshua Tree has this kind of reputation is that the park is just a real gem of a place, and the people here. It's the people that have made this community, that have made the reputation of this place, along with the park. And what you're trying to bring into the community, into this place, will actually destroy its essence. So it's not a well-conceived plan in the sense that it's going to create pollution that we know from what the park director has told us in the past, Kurt Sauer, that the park is endangered because of the air quality and because of the development that's going on around it. So this is going to detract from the major attraction of the park. And it's also not going to be a contribution to the community, to the kind of independent spirit and the fact that, people here are trying to combat the fact that our country and our economy have let corporations value profit over people. And as a community, Joshua Tree is a place that we're trying to value people over profit. And that really is the truth. And so if in fact Joshua Tree is a place that you're attracted to because of the nature and the bohemian aspect and so forth, why don't you 4 partners split up that lot and build yourselves a place that you can actually enjoy your life and really appreciate it more than what your money is actually going to do for you. This is a place where you can really enjoy life. And as one of the builders pointed out, it is an opportunity for you to do something innovative. Think out of the box. You probably didn't know what you're up against when you first bought that piece of land and had this idea about Joshua Tree and so forth. And you look at the surrounding communities at Desert Hot Springs and Rancho Cucamonga, and it's easier to make developments in those places. And perhaps the land was at a good rate, and there were certain things, and the density, as you pointed out, the regulations of the county and of the state are changing. But the truth is, we will fight hard to keep that from happening along the corridor of the park. And I think the park is a mitigating circumstance to those regulations that require a more dense population. So I'd say, look within yourself, and our country's in trouble now because of the greedy profit motives of the corporations that a corporation is supposed to do, and we'd say, think about it carefully.
After George will be Jack and Tina.
Yeah, please excuse me if I have a coughing fit. I have a terrible cold. My name is George Kopp. I'm the president of the Joshua Tree Chamber of Commerce, though tonight I'm speaking to you as an individual, not as a chamber representative. I just got back from a business trip to China. As to be expected, we spoke quite a bit with our Chinese colleagues about the global financial crisis. We learned that in Chinese, the word crisis is made up of 2 characters, one meaning danger, the other meaning opportunity. We know that this economic crisis spells danger. But here in Joshua Tree, we have opportunities as well. Unlike some communities, we've invested wisely in our downtown, creating locally owned businesses run by people with a personal stake in the future of Joshua Tree. We have an opportunity to see increased visitorship to the national park as vacationers look for less expensive alternatives to places like Hawaii. The Chamber of Commerce and the Joshua Basin Water District have begun a joint beautification effort, which will restore native vegetation to Turtle Island and make Joshua Tree Village a showplace for tourists as befits a national park gateway community. So we're sticking to the plan here in Joshua Tree, confident that our community is better equipped than many to weather the economic storm. The danger is that we will blow it. The danger is that we will approve the same failed planning of the past, that we will devalue or destroy our irreplaceable natural assets, that we'll build the same type of unneeded, non-contextual suburban housing that we see all over the Inland Empire, whose legacy for San Bernardino County is an illusion of growth and an actuality of the 4th highest home foreclosure rate in the country. I want to see real growth in Joshua Tree, but walled and gated subdivisions like this are a liability in a community like ours. They devalue our assets and serve to discourage the positive growth we need, growth that is compatible with our tourist economy and our status as a national park gateway community. I urge our county planners not to rubber stamp Joshua Tree's first gated subdivision into existence. Do not saddle us with this liability. These times of economic crisis are dangerous, yet they provide an opportunity to step back and reevaluate the failed ideas of the past. When government neglects to take that opportunity, it is perpetuating the problem, not forging the solution. Thank you.
Coyna from Joshua Tree. I'm 14 years old, and all of those 14 years I've lived in the glory of this desert. But when I was in grade school, I went to Friendly Hills. And now, 2 years later, the very place that I learned reading and writing is about to be desecrated by a gated community. Instead of being able to see miles of divine desert lands, the children of Joshua Tree, of Friendly Hills, and of the neighborhood above it will be stared down by a blank brick wall. But what will be behind this wall? Why, empty houses, of course. I look around Joshua Tree and I see these lifeless abodes waiting and waiting to be sold, for years maybe. Now, try to imagine an entire neighborhood of these hollow homes that will quickly devour the beauty of our desert. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Mary Riggs.
I stand before the members of the MAC and visiting county officials here tonight because I'm tired. I'm exhausted of once again having to defend my community against big money interests who seek to gut our community plan in order to line their pockets. I am weary of carpetbaggers who know nothing about Joshua Tree, presenting their grandiose ideas to the local town folk on how to improve our quaint little village to their own urban designs. I am fatigued of having to constantly protect our unique vistas from being bladed away for new homes when thousands sit empty in our basin, despite what building and real estate interests claim in biased publications. I sigh in despair as I drive by abandoned dirt mounds throughout the basin whose worthless owners, like deadbeat dads, abandoned something they couldn't finish. I am worn out with profiteers' attempts to stratify our population, pitting the presumed haves against the have-nots, or maybe better stated, the gated versus the ungated, attempting to manipulate us only to line their own pockets. Why must we constantly fight to preserve what 3.2 million visitors a year come to see? Certainly not endless rooftops, walls, and security guards, if this and other proposed projects are approved by county officials. It is difficult to imagine what we would lose here when decisions are made 80 miles away. For visiting officials, I'd like to enlighten you as to what energizes local residents in our persistence to defend what we consider a high quality of life. We value diversity in our opinions, our artistic endeavors, our locally owned businesses, and our people. No one group is better than another, and we generally do not support institutions promoting these things, such as big box stores and cookie-cutter houses. We cherish our rural living. Increased traffic and pollution from mass construction projects are not what most of us moved here for. We love our night skies and our mountain views on our crisp, clear mornings, free of the smog that most of the low desert gated communities must endure. Increasing a commuter population deprives residents and tourists alike of these uplifting and rejuvenating features. We treasure our open spaces and the unique flora and fauna that inhabit them. Mass building and grading robs our area of these riches and the ability to appreciate what most of us moved here for. Please consider these things, ladies and gentlemen of the MAC and county offices, because each one is specifically outlined in the plan of our community created for Joshua Tree by Joshua Tree residents. Honor us by honoring our plan.
Okay, now we'll wind it up with comments from the MAC, and tonight we'll start with Stephen.
Well, this has been quite a meeting, hasn't it? When I saw the plan for this project, I can tell if this thing's working tonight.
It's working.
The first thing that popped in my mind is something that has not been mentioned yet, and it is what about the safety of the elementary children, having 300 to 500 cars more move by that school every single day? If you come up Sunny Vista, and I drive Sunny Vista every day because I live just uphill at the elementary school, and the kids are all over the sidewalks, the parents are all over the streets with their cars trying to get their children into the cars safely. They have crosswalk guards trying to escort them across Alta Loma. And I just can't envision another 500 cars daily and without impairing the safety of the children. That is my comment.
I just want to ask a couple questions, and just use your hands, no clapping. How many people are in favor of this project? Just hold up your hands.
I feel like you're all alone.
No one held up their hands in favor of the project sitting in this room. Okay, thank you.
Even the developers didn't want to hear.
Is this on?
Thank you, Jay. Dave.
Get
really close to it, Dave.
I have a good list of things to say. First of all, I think this should go to an EIR. I'll follow up a little later on it. I do want to correct Mr. John Christ. He corrected me on the sense that water is demanded by this project. In here, under 6.6, it says the water demand calculated for the build-out of the Alta Mira project indicates that the project has the potential to generate a demand of up to 50.26 acre-feet per year. I was corrected to the 89, was it? So in 6.6, it says there, 50.
That is the, that number in the PDP is out of date, actually, and the initial study, the CEQA document, does have the additional...
What CEQA document?
The initial study that the
one that
planning
they-
department is reviewing.
Okay, so if there was an EIR, it'd probably be a little more accurate, correct?
Well, the initial study does have the additional acreage water in there.
Well, I can only
And
go
that
by
needs
what I
to be,
have.
no, you pointed out something correctly, you're right, thank you.
Okay, now, I have a lot more stuff to point out. In this situation, I do want to have from you a spelling of the people who are the YB 105 LLC. The names of the people written down because they're hard to spell, it sounds like. The only one I've got is the lawyer Wayne S. Gurelman. And we're in this situation because the county plan, I've done a lot of research on this. In 1980, the county build-up was 70,000 population. Still, that's pretty unrealistic, but now it's 98,000. The change came about because of an upzoning situation.
Can you repeat what you just said? I didn't catch it.
1980, Joshua Tree's build-out, according to the county, was 70,000. That was the optimal build-out for. What they do is they fill out all the zoning. They just figure out how many people they can pack into the current zoning. It was upzoned. Mysteriously, I still don't know. I've only been here since 1985. Before I got here, it was upzoned to 98,000 people. That's an increase of 28,000 people. It seems to me that those 2 square miles, the CATS project and this other one, that you're in the square mile east of the CATS project, those were upzoned to an absurd degree. Now, if people want to know what that means, they zoned it so there's 2.5 miles along Highway 62 of condos, all condos. On either side of it, it's all condos for 2.5 miles, along what potentially could be a scenic highway. Now, who in their right mind would be living in a condo right next to the highway when they have a choice of the other 94 square miles of Joshua Tree? Okay, condos or apartments, they're buildings, 2-story buildings that have dimensions that are absurd. Okay, that's that part. Okay, on the water, we got to catch up on that. As far as the earth being moved, it's mass grading, it's 408,000 cubic yards cut and filled. The working phase is 31 acres. It's possibly up to 10 phases, but it could be 5 phases, whatever.
Could be multiple phases at once.
But the working phase, if you want to call it that, would be 31 acres, which I think would have a dust problem. And that brings up the other part. In this questionnaire filled out by, I don't know who filled it out, but one of your agents or somebody, in this questionnaire for the project, it says, number 9 says, will the project change scenic views or vistas from existing residential areas, public lands, or roads? The answer is no in this questionnaire. Then it says, number 10 says, will there be a change in dust, ash, smoke, fumes, or odors in the vicinity of the project? And again, number 10, the answer is no. And if you have a 31-acre working face, I'm pretty sure you're going to have dust, which is addressed in here somewhat, but
Well, it would be a construction versus a post-construction condition.
yes. Okay.
Can I,
Okay, you're
the first one you just mentioned, what was the first point? They're not the water.
The vista.
Vista?
Yeah. The answer is no.
Yeah, you're looking at an application check sheet?
Yeah?
An application check sheet that went with the original application. The initial study CEQA document clearly recognizes that there will be impacts to scenic vistas, and the PDP document tries to address that through the design standards and guidelines.
But when somebody fills this out, are they of the right mind to fill it out when they do that?
Well, actually, we did not fill that out, so I don't know who filled that form out, but it is only a preliminary application form. The other is that with regard to the dust and the whatever, the dust, fugitive dust and other emissions associated with construction, there are a whole set of required mitigation programs by the Mojave Desert Water Air Quality District and by the county that should mitigate those.
Okay. Okay. Well, what brought me to the water use situation was these houses, in HOAs, they don't allow laundry lines, so that means that the houses automatically have a 10% increase in power usage because they have dryers.
They're not allowed to have laundry lines?
HOAs don't. Homeowners associations do not allow it.
Well, we haven't written the CC&Rs yet, so I don't know how anybody would know. Homeowners associations enforce conditions, covenants, and restrictions.
Yeah.
Those have to be drafted and they're approved by the Department of Real Estate. We haven't drafted those yet, so there's no restrictions of that sort on this project.
Not yet.
But you're not proposing any, are you?
No, but my experience has been that homeowners associations do like to clamp down on laundry and all that kind of thing. Anyway, get to the Josh Tree situation. In my visual comparison to the CATS project averages 20 Josh trees per acre. From what I can see of your 105 acres, you're roughly about half the amount, which is about 1,000 Joshua trees, and they look a little more on the younger side of things, which means that they are more translocatable. But here comes the other part, and what you're not aware of is Full Motor did the plan for the schematic for your project. Full Motor has a reputation out here. He already did it in Yucca Valley. It was a fight because they're trying to clear cut the situation. And in the Joshua trees, I think you're under the influence of somebody who he presented to the Yucca Valley Town Council, 2 translocation experts who said that of the translocatable trees, one expert said that he had a 98% success rate. The other one said he had a 95% success rate. That is folly. That is probably almost the reverse of what it is. As far as what we've seen out, I've been out here 25 years, as far as I've seen, the development community has about a success rate of about 15 to 20% at the most. On to the tortoise study. The tortoise study, I'm aware that I'm on the College Oversight Committee, so information comes to me sometimes, and Copper Mountain College has 85 acres, mostly now tortoise mitigation area, and in that situation, they have about 30 disturbed acres, which they're doing some major construction on. That area has 15 tortoises. Now, this is 5 miles to the east, but it has 15 tortoises on that. The tortoise survey, they counted them, they mitigated. 15 tortoises works out to 1 every 5 acres. I have people I know who I talk to who are in tortoise recovery, tortoise rescue and all. And the national park has tortoise in the Black Rock area, which is an altitude of around, I think, 3,800 feet or so. So it's, as you've heard, the tortoise have been observed on that property. Your tortoise survey is flawed in the sense that it's saying no tortoise sign. In other words, there's no burrows, when there's thousands of burrows on the Copper Mountain College property. And so I would say that has to be redone. The tortoise survey has to be redone. It's extremely suspicious. And then again, on the county fire hazard overlay, there's places that have high density fires.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Our biologists, I pay them whether they find tortoise or don't find tortoise. They have no vested interest in misrepresenting their finds. They also are heavily involved in conservation planning. They worked with us. Our firm, Terra Nova, did the environmental document for the Coachella Valley multi-species plan, where we're conserving almost 800,000 acres of habitat down there. So I know a little bit about this subject, and our biologists worked with us. There's nothing wrong with our biology report. It was done by professionals of the highest caliber. So I take umbrage with your reference there. Thank you.
I'm sorry. And then on the county fire overlay, south of Alta Loma, the county fire overlay comes to the south of Alta Loma. And so in my witnessing, it's a personal witnessing situation, of the fires they had about a year ago or so, as far as the fires going, there's places where the greenery would be spared, and the houses, because they're so close together, they were the ones burning. So when you have houses 5, 10, 15 feet apart in a density that you're building, a fire coming from the south, northward, and from the west, it looks like your property with the embers coming from that direction could be damaged by it. It's a concern I have.
Yeah, you have a Venturi effect right there with the wind velocity.
So that's the short version. My main question on this is there an EIR going to be done on this? And I haven't heard a good answer yet from county planning, or I haven't asked that question of you. But I think an EIR should happen, and I'll have to get to county planning to see if this project, when and what we get to see this project happen.
Thank you, David. Stephen, you had something to add?
Yes, I would like to comment. I think one of the reasons David is questioning the tortoise report is that we've had a previous incident of a casino proposed for 29 homes. They also brought in a report of a no tortoise sign on the property. The local citizens basically laughed in the face and went and found the tortoises, whereupon they then reluctantly had to have a second biologist come out and verify that yes, there were tortoises on the property. So we've seen a similar situation earlier, which I think is why he's questioning a zero tortoise impact today.
Well, if I can reiterate, they recognize that this is tortoise habitat. We also met with, spoke with, and then met with out in the field a representative of the Center for Biological Diversity, and spoke about the matter as well. And he pointed to the fact, we indicated we had bio done and we didn't find any tortoise per the proper protocol. And he didn't dispute that. He did point to the northwest. He said down that area, down towards the highway again, that they know they've been seeing the tortoises down there. And there's no question about it. It's tortoise, and also tortoise can actually travel quite a bit. That's why tortoise surveys would be required prior to any kind of grading taking place, of course. And it does vary quite a bit in terms of desirable habitat from place to place for the tortoise.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you for being brave enough to come and present to us. And thank all of you. Yes, thank you to the community for all your input. Our next month's meeting will be on Thursday, March the 9th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Appropriate adjourned.